Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's head-to-head comparison, let's take a look at the 2025 Lexus IS350 F Sport and the 2025 Lexus ES350 F Sport. I borrowed these from Hendrick Lexus and Hendrick BMW Northlake, so take a look at their links down in the description, along with full detailed reviews that I've been able to make on both of these models if you want to see some more details. But let's start off with their starting MSRPs. For the ES, they start just over $49,000 versus just over $45,000 for the IS model. So it is a little bit more expensive, of course, to go with the ES. Now, what they are powered by is the same 3.5 liter naturally aspirated V6, both paired to an 8-speed automatic. However, the ES pumps out 302 horsepower, 267 pound-feet of torque versus 311 horsepower, 280 pound-feet of torque for the IS model. Now, you can get rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive for the IS. ES is only going to be offered with front-wheel drive. We have very similar curb weights, 3,800 pounds for the IS, 3,700 pounds for the ES, so it does weigh a little bit more, especially if you have the all-wheel drive system for the IS model. 0 to 60 is going to be 5.5 seconds for the IS versus 6.5 seconds for the ES. And then for top speed, you're looking at 143 miles an hour for the IS model, 131 miles an hour for the ES. And as far as fuel economy goes, 20 miles per gallon in the city and 28 out on the highway for the IS, and then 22 and 32 for the ES model. Now, as we work our way to the exterior styling, you'll notice they do share a lot of similar characteristics. Both of these models have the large Lexus badge along with a forward-facing camera and the hourglass design for the grille. There's also parking sensors running throughout. You get trim accents on both sides. You'll notice too that the forward-facing cameras on the top for the IS model, much different design for the mesh within that. And then you'll notice some large inlets in the lower section. Trim accents are slightly different. And then there's also a very different housing for both of these models. You'll notice that triple beam design with the DRL in the lower section, and then the DRL and turn signal is one strip for the IS model there. They do share similar hood designs, so they have a great look to them. And then as we move on to the side, you'll notice different wheels. There's the F Sport badge just behind that as well. And then they both have relatively similar brakes. Brakes on the ES are in the front there versus being a little bit larger on the IS model. They both have the F Sport tuned suspension as well. And then you'll notice power folding side mirrors with a camera and a turn signal. There's also a sunroof up top. And then for the ES model, you have the same design there, just with some different accents, also featuring a sunroof as well. And then as we move on to the side design, you'll notice that the ES is going to be a little bit longer. The dimensions are fairly similar, but you also have some really nice lines in the lower section here with a line going through the door handles. You also have one over on this model as well, running right through. So a little bit different. You get a trim accent in the lower section too for the IS. Now, working your way to the back, you'll notice there's a backup camera. You have all the parking sensors and then a dual exhaust system with that diffuser in the middle. Now, you do get a button up underneath. You can use the key fob, of course, and you have a power trunk lid for this model. Now, you do get a good bit of interior space. You can't fold down the back seat, however. You only have that small cutout right there, and then you do get a little bit of space underneath the floor. And the spare tire is located underneath that, so you do get a spare for this model. So good amount of space, even though you can't fold that back seat down. And then you have one button up top to close that. Now, from what I've read, you can't fold the seat down. It just makes it a little bit more insulated from what I have seen compared to the IS model here. Now, with this model, you get a spoiler, just like on the ES, which I didn't show there. It is body colored. You have a backup camera, all the parking sensors, much different design for the exhaust, and then more gloss black underneath. Now, you have another control underneath. It is not power operating for the IS model. Now, in this, you can fold down the back seats, so that gives you a lot more space to put in some items, and then you do get a spare tire underneath to put in additional items. So about the same, but you have even more space being able to fold that seat down. Now, as we work our way to the interior now, of course, these will vary just depending on the options that you go with, but we have a very nice design, release handle, the window control, storage in that lower section, some nice trim accents. And then at 5'10", I have a good bit of space. You get storage pockets. There's also vents in the middle, all the auxiliaries, and I have maybe an inch and a half or so of headroom, so very comfortable for full-size adults to sit in the back. Now, there's also the armrest. You have cup holders, and then you have the opening to gain access into the trunk space. There's also a rear sunshade that is adjustable, just to block some of that sunlight through that rear window. And you have proximity door handles on the ES. You do not have that for the IS model here. And then as you can tell, a little bit different of a design. There's a bigger gap between the release handle there. And then at 5'10", this seat is moved back. It has the easy entry and exit, so it can go forwards, of course, where I'd have plenty of leg room. You have storage pockets on both sides, vents in the middle. It is going to be a little bit smaller. My head is just barely touching the headliner in this, and with this seat moved a little bit farther forward, it's still going to be a little bit shorter. So it's tighter, but it is definitely doable for adults. You do have cup holders in the armrest here, and then no cutout for the middle, so you can just fold down the back seats. So you do get a little bit more length in the ES if you are looking for a little bit more practical of a back seat. Now I'll go through this pretty quickly since I have the full reviews, but you get memory seating adjustments, power folding side mirrors, all of your window controls, and more storage. F Sport badge down below, and then a nice design for the automatic seats. Now once we hop in, we have a solid leather steering wheel. You have cruise control settings. There's also your Bluetooth and voice commands. You have volume and tuning. And then you have controls for your lane keeping assist, distance pacing, and then going through the gauge cluster. Now, as you can tell, you have some information on the left side of the tach. So you can go through quite a lot just by getting through all of this information here. And then when you're ready to, you can hide that away and focus on your temperature, your fuel, and then you have that information right in the middle where you still can scroll through a little bit of information. So it is nice depending on what you'd like to see. There's tons of tech features as well that you can go through as needed. So quite a lot that you can see. Now on the left side, you have a view button for the camera system. So this does have a 360 view. That is not new from Lexus, but you can just get a look around the vehicle just depending on the visibility that you want and where you would like to see. Now there's also automatic headlights. You do have piped in exhaust noises that you can turn on and off. There's one air vent, no head-up display for this model. And then with the infotainment system, you can go through a good bit. Now it is touchscreen, or you can use the trackpad that is integrated down below. There's also a split view, so you can look at some information on that right side and keep that nav up on the left side. And then you can go through a lot more just by clicking on menu. So you can get through all of this information as needed. Now you get a clock along with air vents, and then you have all of your physical controls down below for your climates. Still has a CD player. You have volume and tuning, temperature adjustments on both sides, and then this even has heated and ventilated seats along with a heated steering wheel. You have a few different driving modes too. Just by twisting this dial, you will notice that change on the tach there, so you can go through those as needed. There's a snow mode, traction control, auto hold, and then when we put this into reverse, you have the backup camera and the top-down view, and you can also pull up the forward-facing camera. So put the vehicle into drive, click the view button over on that left side. It will also come up automatically if you choose to have that set. So at slower speeds, you can do that. You can also shift using the shifter or the paddle shifters as well. And then you have cup holder storage. You have some auxiliaries in the armrest with plenty of storage there. There's also a lot more in the glove box. You have garage door buttons up top, and then some dome lights and controls for the sunroof. The sunshade is manually adjusting. And then here's a look at visibility where you can easily see over both shoulders. And then as we work our way to the ES model now, we have a much different interior, same controls, just in a little bit different of a layout, memory seating adjustments, window controls, all of that. You only have Lexus down on the door sill, and then as you can tell, this model has a much different look to it with the seats. Now, as we start this up, we have a different layout for the controls. So you have all of your cruise control settings up here, along with mode and tuning, lane keeping assistance, and distance pacing, and then volume, Bluetooth adjustments, and controls to go through the gauge cluster. So you get the same information within the gauge cluster there, and you can even change it over. So everything is going to be relatively the same in terms of all of this information that you can go through and customize, even going through all these tech features too. Now on this left side, you get a little bit of storage. There's also a fuel cap release. You have a trunk release since that is power operating. And then you do have that view button. So you can go through one angle here, just depending on this visibility that you need. And this model also has a head-up display, so you can turn that on and off. Now you also have some more controls within the gauge cluster itself. So on this left side, you can turn on and off traction control, And then on the right side is how you can go through the different driving modes. So those will change on the gauge cluster as well, just depending on the mode that you need to get into. And then as we work our way to the infotainment system, you'll see a clock on the left side, and then we have some controls on this left side too to get through all of this information. So a little bit more updated for this model in terms of being able to get through all of this, along with some of these vitals that you can monitor and a bunch of settings that you can get into. I do like the larger style for the screen, which is nice. You have air vents underneath that, and then all of your climate adjustments are laid out very nicely. So there's temperature dials, your fan speed, where you'd like the air to go, different recirc adjustments. You have power, volume, and tuning, and then some media controls. As you can tell, no CD player for this model. You get heated and ventilated seats, a heated steering wheel, the rear sunshade. There's your e-brake. You have a little bit of storage along with a few auxiliaries. You have cup holders there, and then the backup camera with the top-down view. So it's just a flipped image there. Now, if I put this into drive, the forward-facing camera will appear, and then you can use that view icon on the left side to adjust a few different angles there, which is nice. Now, you can also shift using this or the paddle shifters themselves. Now, you get wireless charging in this model, and you have auxiliaries with even more storage and the center armrest, and it does open 2 different ways. And then you have the glove box storage. You get garage door buttons up top, dome lights, and controls are identical to the IS model. And then visibility is going to be fairly similar compared to the IS. The window trim and the pillar in the back are going to be roughly the same. So with the exteriors and interiors wrapped up, let's get these both out on the road and see how they drive. So we'll start off behind the wheel in the IS350, where we do have an automatic steering wheel as well, so we can get that in the right spot. And with a small acceleration, I do have that piped in exhaust note on at the moment. So that will play through the speakers, and you can shut that off by using that dial on the left side if you would like to. So that does give you a little bit more of a sporty feel. Yes, it's not accurate because it is piped in. And hopefully you could just hear that change as I turned it on. But you can also put on an aftermarket exhaust as well if you want it to be a little bit louder. But it definitely sounds good. Shifts are very smooth too. And this is a vehicle that is going to shine in the higher RPM. Obviously, I'm not doing that today, but once you get this into its higher RPMs, it's going to shift a little bit more crisp. And it's really going to be an exhilarating car to drive. We don't have any turbos. We don't have any hybrid system for this. It's just you and this NA engine that a lot of people like because of how reliable it is. Same thing goes for the ES model as well. It's a vehicle that you are going to be able to drive for decades and have a very easy vehicle to maintain. But as far as driving this goes with the F Sport suspension, it's going to be a little bit firmer, but it's nothing that you can't daily drive. It's not going to be a harsh suspension. It's just going to give you those handling characteristics to be able to take some corners a little bit better than the standard suspension for these models. So you do get the handling characteristics with the F Sport package, which I do like to see. Would be nice to see some increases in power for sure, but you have a very nice vehicle that is just going to handle well. And like I said, you get it up in the higher RPMs, it is going to be a fun vehicle to drive. But with the IS model here, definitely a fun platform. It's something that is very popular. It's a little bit small-ish for a sedan, but a lot of people daily drive these. It's nothing too confined where I could still fit in the back and be comfortable. Maybe not quite on a long road trip necessarily, but still something that is nice to be in. It also has a very tight turning radius as well. And we have the few different driving modes there depending on the throttle response that you would like. Now this also has the optional all-wheel drive system, so if you are driving in some more inclement weather and you just want some better grip, you have the option to go with that as well. So now let's hop into the ES and see the differences. And behind the wheel now for the ES model, we do have Sport Plus. We have the same adjustment for the steering wheel here. We do not have that piped in exhaust note, but from second gear, here we go. And hopefully you can hear that it is definitely not as loud. This is going to be what I'll say a little bit more refined feeling. The IS350 is still going to be a fantastic luxury focused vehicle, to drive. But this is definitely much more on the quiet side, especially with the rear seats not folding down, makes it a little bit more insulated and quiet on the interior. Definitely not as quick getting up to speed, even with that minor acceleration, but you can still have a little bit of fun with this. You do get the handling characteristics with this model being the F Sport version, so you are going to get that suspension where it will handle some turns much better. Personally, I think that's definitely very nice to have. Paddles are still responsive. And as far as its turning radius goes, because this is a longer vehicle, let's see if we can do this here. We're pretty tight. We may have to turn around here, but that is okay. Both are going to be very maneuverable to drive as well. And as we give it another acceleration, you can definitely feel that the IS is going to be quicker. Obviously, it has some more power to it, but this has a very nice get up and go to it. Very smooth. Seats also feel like they're a little bit bigger too, so they're holding me much better on both sides with the bolstering support that they have, and even bumps like that. This is a very quiet and comfortable vehicle. So you have two F Sport models with very different types of driving styles. You have the IS for some more performance style driving, and you have the ES here that is a little bit more luxury focused with some of those performance characteristics. So back from our quick test drives now with both of these models, you can take a look at the full detailed reviews if you want to see more driving impressions with both of these sedans. Now, you are going to get more performance with the IS model since you do get more power. However, you do have more backseat passenger space in the ES model. You get more cargo space in the IS since you can fold down that back seat. You get a little bit larger of a back area though in the ES, even though you can't fold down the back seats. It's going to be a little bit quieter of a ride as well. So honestly, you do have two really good options to go with. Really just depends on the performance that you want, especially having rear wheel drive and all wheel drive versus front wheel drive on the ES. So while you can get some of those handling characteristics with the ES model, it's not going to be quite as performance oriented as the IS. This is a very popular platform if you're looking for a sporty vehicle that you want to take on some back roads and just have a little bit of spirited fun with that NA engine. So comment down below. Personally, I would go with the IS model. I do like the more performance aspects that you get with that versus the ES, but that is a really nice option to go with as well. So comment down below, let me know your thoughts. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a huge thumbs up. Consider smashing that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with our daily uploads. I will see you all in the next video.